Hi grade 12s, this morning I'm going to be doing the third reproductive strategy in the animal reproductive strategy section, and that is parental care. So parental care is any energy or effort or resource that a parent provides to increase the offspring's chance of survival. Let's look at two concepts, pre and postnatal care. Prenatal care refers to any care that is given before the birth and during the gestation period. This will include things like egg guarding, building of nests, carrying of broods, incubating eggs, and of course placental nourishment in mammals. Postnatal care is the care that is given after the birth of the offspring, things like providing food and protection and teaching the offspring to fend for themselves. Okay, so let's begin with looking at the parental care that we find in fish. So there are some species of fish that give parental care, and they do so by building nests, by guarding their eggs and their hatchlings. Some species will fan their eggs using their fins to supply oxygen, and some will clean their eggs to eliminate fungus. We have fish known as sea dragons and seahorses that have a form of male pregnancy, and yes, a seahorse and a sea dragon are in fact fish. Seahorses mate for life, and they pair after they've had an 8-hour courtship dance. The female places her eggs into the male's brooding pouch, and they'll be fertilized there, and then he will bear the offspring. And the female takes no part in caring for the youngs once she has laid her eggs, because the father is the one that is providing the parental care. It is known as paternal care. I will put a link in the description below so you can watch some extra information on reproduction and parental care in seahorses. As mentioned above, some males will take a role in guarding their eggs, and here's a photograph of a male fish guarding the eggs that will become his offspring. Then we have this concept of mouth brooding, whereby the fish will keep their offspring in their mouths to protect them from predators. An example here are cichlid fish. The specific South African example that we can discuss or highlight here is called tilapia, the South African cichlid fish. Moving on to amphibians, so there are actually 6 modes of parental care that is recognized amongst the amphibia, and that of course occurs in different species. So the first one is egg attendance, which is basically looking after the egg. The other is egg transport, so they don't leave their eggs, they transport their eggs with them. Then of course tadpole attendance, so when the egg hatches they will look after the tadpoles. They will also transport the tadpoles. They will feed the tadpoles, and in some species of amphibians, you will remember there are viviparous species and ovoviviparous species. Then the parental care then would be prenatal during internal gestation, so while the amphibian is carrying the offspring in the female's body. So here's an example of egg attendance. Now looking at a South African example, the African bullfrog will protect their tadpole offsprings from birds and other animals trying to eat them, the predators. And they also create paths for the tadpoles to move from drying up, so they don't dry up in the ponds. I'm also going to put a link in the description below to show you how the African bullfrog, the male African bullfrog, shows paternal care. Then some frogs make nests out of foam to keep their eggs safe, as seen in the diagram at the bottom on the right-hand side. The foam creates a perfect environmental conditions for the egg and protects them from disease and fungus. Often these nests very cleverly also hang over the bodies of water, so that when the tadpoles emerge from the eggs, they simply drop into the water. Let's move on to our reptiles. Okay, so when parental care does occur in reptiles, which is not very often, it's normally the female only, many species within the group of reptiles are producing offspring that are reasonably self-sufficient and able to regulate their body temperatures and forage for themselves immediately after birth, therefore really eliminating the need for parental care. So there are situations where you have parental care, specifically maternal care, and that will exist in your crocodiles, where the mother will assist the hatchlings by transporting them in her mouth from the nest to the water so that they are safe, and then she might stay with them for a couple of months. There are a few lizards and snakes that guard their eggs. So here is an example of a python incubating her eggs by body heat, and of course she will also protect them from attack from predators. Now, of course, our birds. We all know that birds display high levels of parental care. 90% of bird species will display biparental care, which means that both the mother and the father are responsible for caring for the young. Now, most birds, when they're born, or when they hatch, I should say, are born blind and naked, and they're completely helpless. The biological term for this is they are altricial, and this means they are totally dependent for their survival on their parents. Now, the young are typically raised in the nest until they're old enough to fend for themselves. The parents will catch the food and bring it to the offspring, and sometimes the food will be regurgitated for the young. Some birds, such as pigeons and others, create this type of regurgitated food. In this case of a pigeon, it's called crop milk, which is going to be regurgitated. Just to mention, a crop is a part of the digestive system of a bird. It's an expanded muscular pouch near the throat, and it's kind of an enlarged part of the esophagus that's there for temporary storage of food. Okay, so how birds also display parental care is obviously incubating the eggs, using their body temperature to keep the eggs warm at an optimum temperature for embryo development. They, of course, build nests to keep the eggs in one place for incubation. They're there, they don't move, they're protected against predators and environmental factors such as the sun and the rain, or any other negative environmental factor that might occur. So brooding is when the adult parent bird will sit on the eggs, and they do this because the developing embryo can't thermoregulate, so it can't control its body temperature. So if it gets too cold, then the embryo will die. If it gets too hot, in the same way. And of course, once the bird is hatched, or the little bird has been born, then the adult birds will feed the offspring for a number of weeks. And of course, always protects against predators. And once the offspring are ready, they will teach the young to get their own food. Rightio, so of course our mammals, as we know, exhibit parental care. There is basically maternal care in all species of mammals. The mother always will in some way protect and care for her young. 95% of species exhibit female-only care, and in the remaining 5% or so, you will have this biparental care, where both the father and the mother are responsible for looking after the young. Your higher mammals, excluding the echidna and platypus, their way of parental care is during gestation, where there will be the placenta, which is going to provide all the nutrients and the oxygen and so on for the developing embryo inside of the mother. Of course, we don't include echidna and platypus here because they are egg-laying, if you remember. Then there will be live birth, and of course, parental care, or part of parental care, is the production of milk and lactation, which is breastfeeding. Now, many mammals exhibit further parental care by building nests or digging burrows or feeding and guarding their young, often for very long periods of time. Okay, so just to expand a little bit on mammals, so mammals have an innate drive to care for their newborn. And this, of course, will increase the survival and well-being of the offspring. So, of course, parental care, therefore, is maximizing reproductive success, because if you're caring for your young, then obviously they will survive and become reproductively fit themselves. So just a little bit more on maternal care. We've already spoken about it, but just this term lactation, breastfeeding, providing milk that is best for the development of the offspring. And the mothers can also protect against predators. Now, paternal care. Now, male mammals actually invest more energy in reproductive effort in terms of enhancing reproductive success, so kind of before the female is pregnant. So he will have elaborate courtship displays, and he will compete with other males within the species to make sure that he is the male that is the one that she mates with. So all of this expends a lot of energy, and therefore there's not much energy left for him to also show parental or give parental care. But there are species where the males provide parental care, but then normally it's biparental. So the mother and the father, the male and the female, will be responsible for caring for the young. And this is commonly found in primates and rodents, and a group of animals like canids, which include the African wild dog, which is an important example that we study in our syllabus. Just to expand a little bit on the African wild dog. So the African wild dog will make special dens or burrows that provide warmth and protection. And quite interestingly, the pups will remain in the den with the mother for about 3 to 4 weeks. And when they're brought out of the den, it becomes the responsibility of the whole pack. Remember when we did social animals in population ecology, we spoke about this. And the pups can nurse from other females. In other words, they can breastfeed from other females as well as from their mother, which is an interesting concept that the African wild dog. So therefore, just to end off, parental care is obviously very expensive in terms of energy, and this energy is put in before the birth as well as after the birth. But the fact that in many of these instances fewer offspring are produced, enough energy is available for this parental care. And this energy that is spent on parental care is obviously of great value because it will ensure that the offspring will survive and will therefore lead to the reproductive success of the offspring, and therefore parental care certainly does maximize reproductive success.